All right, we are on to episode number 2 of the 4-part series. So again, if you are coming into this particular episode and you didn't see the first episode, there is a playlist down below. It's a 4-part series. The first part is going to be determining your FIRE number and getting that motivation going to get your finances and everything cleaned up. This second part was for me. As I kind of mentioned in the first one, if you did watch that, you already know what I'm about to say is that I wasn't in the right place financially. I needed some guidance. I really needed some motivation to start getting on the right path to becoming financially free. And so the first thing that I did was determine my FIRE number. And so if you aren't familiar with FIRE number or what I mean by that, take a look at the playlist down below. Even if you are, get a little refresher and kind of see the process that I go through in order to determine the FIRE number and where our end goal is. The second thing that we're going to be doing, if you have any debt, I want to discuss with you kind of 2 different options that are out there for you to take advantage of. I don't think that's the right way of saying it, but 2 different options that you can do in order to get rid of your debt. You can do the debt Snowball, you can do the debt Avalanche, and then I'll kind of share with you which way I did. I'm going to list out some of the, the differences between the 2. And then in the third part, the next episode that's going to be coming after this particular series or after this particular episode is going to be getting you going on your brokerage account. So I walk you step by step in the process of getting that $1,000 that you have and starting to getting your first investment. And then finally from there, the fourth one is going to be the journey to becoming wealthy and what you need in order to become wealthy. So let's not waste no time. Let's get right into it and let's talk about how to get rid of that debt that you have. What is a debt snowball? So debt snowball is one version of a way to pay off your debt. What you do in the debt snowball is basically you list out all of your debts and you put them in order from the smallest to the largest. And that's going to be based off of the principal that you owe, the amount that you owe. You're not going to worry about any other factors. You're not going to worry about, the term and how long you have left to pay it. You're not going to worry about the interest rate. All you're going to do is list out debts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many you have, and put the smallest amount at the top and the largest amount down below. And what you're going to begin to do is pay minimums on everything but the one that you are working on. And so, for instance, let's say you have a debt at 100, you got another one at 200, 300, 400, and 500 to make this example very simple. You're going to be working on that $100 debt first, and you're going to list the others in order down below, and you're only going to be paying the payment or the minimum payments on those other ones. So the 200, 300, 400, 500, whatever those minimum payments are, that's all you're going to be making towards that. And any additional money that you have, you're going to be putting it towards that $100 balance that you have. Once you finish paying off that $100 balance, you're then going to take that minimum payment that you have been used to paying for the $100 and roll that onto the second one, as well as any other additional money that you have. And you're going to keep beating that one up until that one's gone. And then the third, and the fourth, and the fifth. And so what begins to happen, as you can envision, as you keep paying each one off and you keep taking the minimum payment from before, that payment that is going to the larger ones gets a lot bigger and begins to build up momentum, almost like a snowball, so that then you begin to pay off your debt a lot faster. So some pros with this particular strategy is that you begin to have immediate wins and or wins that are as fast as possible depending on the amount of debt that you have. You start with the smallest amount of debt that you owe, and so that's going to allow you to get, a win. You're going to have a sheet of paper. You're going to have all these guys listed off on your refrigerator, wherever the case may be, where you look at every single day. You're going to be able to cross that bad boy off, and as you're working on the other ones, you're going to be able to look up and say, you know what? I kicked that first one's butt, and now I'm working on the second, and so on and so on. And so that might be a mental a trophy for you that you would want in your process to paying off this debt. Again, as I kind of mentioned before, you're going to make the minimum payments on everything but the smallest one, and then be able to work that through. And so, as you finish, the key takeaway is that you move that minimum payment on to the next one. You just don't take that money and stop, using that money. You have already been used to paying that money. So continue making that minimum payment, but now just add it to the minimum payment of the second payment. And so that minimum payment or that payment that's going to the debt keeps getting larger and larger as you start working down your list in order to build up that steam and that momentum of the snowball to pay that debt off faster. So now, what is the difference between debt avalanche? Debt avalanche is same kind of concept, but you list it from high interest rate down to low interest rate. And the thought pattern behind this particular strategy is to minimize the amount of interest that you're going to be paying over the course of this process. Again, depending on what your number is for how much debt you owe, this could be a significant number. For me, in my case, I had $100,000 in debt at the beginning of my journey of paying that stuff off. And so I had a lot of different creditors with all different interest rates from 0% up to 18%. And so if I were to do this strategy, I actually did not do the debt avalanche. I did the debt snowball, and I'll talk to you as to the reasons why on the next slide. But if I were to do that, I would list all of those debts. I would find out the interest rate on each of those, list them from highest to lowest to try to pay that off, that high interest one first, in order to minimize that interest over the long term to reduce the overall amount of money that I need to pay back and eliminating all of the debts. This is going to save you money on interest. Depending on where your principals are, it's hard to say exactly. You might be lucky and your highest payment might be your smallest principal, but you're not going by principal, you're going by highest interest rate. So you might not get the immediate wins in the same manner as you would possibly get in the debt snowball. It's all going to be based off of your particular situation and the amount of debts that you owe. The other thing that folks somewhat forget and didn't realize, and I learned this going through my process of paying off the debt, is that interest is not really the problem. Because if you were thinking and wanting to use math from the beginning, you would have never really gotten into credit card debt because you would have realized that, buying something for $100 and then over 6 months paying $125 for it wasn't the most sense mathematically. And so now folks have made bad decisions and gotten into debt and then want to use, mathematical decisions in order to get out of debt. That's not really the issue. The issue is spending money and that discipline there that you have within in order to not spend the money that you don't have, which is why you put it on a credit card. And or for whatever reasons couldn't pay that credit card off at the end of the month, whatever the case may be. That is the main issue, and that is the real issue with the credit card debt. It has nothing to really do with the math in that debt. So now let's talk about, what were the strategies and how I was able to pay off $100,000 in 32 months. April 2018, I made my final payment in December of 2020. And so for me, it started with a feeling. As I kind of mentioned to you, if you saw the previous episode, I was kind of lost financially. I was driving down. I was actually purchasing my property, my office for my business. And I remember Chase was giving me such a hard time in being able to qualify for the loan. And I'm looking and I'm paying them. I had two credit cards with them, actually. I had one credit card that had $20,000 on it, and I had another credit card that I owed them $18,000 on that second credit card. So I'm paying them about $2,000, $2,500 a month in minimum payments for those two cards. No, I'm lying. 7 plus 8. No, $1,500 a month in payments. It's a trip. When you really get deep into this, you memorize the payments that I had are imprinted in my mind. But anyways, I had this feeling. And so long story short, I'm driving down the street and Chase is getting a brand new building, and I'm trying to get a loan from them, and they won't even basically qualify me, or they're putting me through the ringer to get qualified for my mortgage. And so I'm giving them all of my money, and their buildings are being built off of my hard work. And so that really started this thought pattern as to like something has to change. This is not going in the right direction, and I'm not happy where I am. And so the next hardest thing and the next thing that I had to do was stop using credit cards. My issue was I was under the premise that, hey, I use a credit card, I'll pay it off at the end of the month. Now, that whole $100,000 was not consumer credit card debt. Again, I had a business, so some of it was equipment, vehicles, things of that nature. But overall, it was still credit cards or it was still debt that I didn't want, hanging around my neck and something that I needed to pay someone else every single month. And so I had to make a choice and to stop using credit cards. And the first month, 2 months was the hardest for me because of the cash flow issue that I had. I was so used to paying for all of my products and things that I needed for the business on a credit card and then quote unquote paying it back off when those payments came in. But that never happened. And so that month, that 2 months to really get aligned and start using only cash and then making sure those invoices came in on time so that then I can replenish my accounts in order to pay for the gas for the trucks and whatever the case may be. That was the hardest process for me, and that was the steepest learning curve to really learning how to manage my finances. Again, I went the debt snowball method, so I listed my debts from smallest to largest so that I can start getting some immediate wins. For me, that was a big thing for me. I wanted to see some progress, and for me, it was a big deal crossing out that debt and seeing, I used a big old Sharpie, and I had a piece of paper up at my office at work, and I listed them, and every time I paid it off, I took a big old Sharpie and I crossed it off. And when things got hard, things got challenging, I went back to that particular piece of paper and I looked at the cards and the debts that I had paid off, and that was valuable for me. And that's why I went that debt snowball route, so that I can sort of start getting some immediate wins and start building some mental toughness and some mental endurance and stamina in order to continue on this journey and pay it off. And so again, that's not to say debt snowball is better than debt avalanche. You just have to know yourself and which one is better for you, as well as possibly knowing, your principal amounts. Maybe your principal amounts are plus or minus already in order with the interest rate, and so you're kind of going to be doing a 2-for-1. Whatever is going to get you to the end of having all of this stuff paid off is the route that I would like you to take, and that is the most important. And then the fourth, which was the longest out of all of these, was servicing the debt. It took me 32 months in order to go from where I started to making that final payment. And so that is a long time of constantly month over month, going out to work, collecting those funds, and then putting it down on that debt that needed to get paid off. But there was one positive out of all of this, and that was in paying off my debt and getting so frustrated with it, it really allowed me to grow my income to a manner that now allows me to put a lot of money away into investments. You see, I basically took all the money that I was paying, honestly a little bit less. I was paying around $4,500 a month to debt when I was paying this stuff off. And so now I pay about $3,800 between brokerage and retirement accounts into our investments account. And so I actually took a decrease in outgoing money to put it towards our future versus what I was paying to the banks and to the different servicers and debtors that we owed. So that was the one positive, was that it really taught me, right? It really taught me how to make a lot of money and be able to pay and then begin to use those funds to start providing for our future. So I hope this was value, and this was the second phase, but this was the longest phase. I don't want to, even though this video is short, this is going to take energy and this is going to take time. And if it means anything, save this video and replay it when times are tough for you, because I want to be your motivation. I want to let you know that I am here by your side, as well as come back to the channel. I'm always going to be talking about finances every single month. I do a monthly update on our situation, and I want that to be used as motivation and show you the process that it is to go from where you currently are to reaching your financial freedom. But get that debt off your neck. Get that debt off your back. You will breathe a lot better, and it will just begin to open up the opportunities for where you and your family can go. So if you are new to the channel, please subscribe to the channel if I'm bringing you value. Give a thumbs up. Pass this on to anybody else that is going through this struggle, because I want to build a community. And this series, I hope, is going to be able to lift that off and start that community for us coming together on a monthly basis and being support to each other. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you on the next video, where we're going to talk about how you open up that brokerage account and begin investing into the stock market. See you on the next one.